EDP 365 covers topics with explicit and strong language and is intended for mature audiences only. Topics may be sensitive to some, and everyday people may not agree with the views expressed on this discussion, but please keep in mind, we give you the point of view of everyday people, everyday situations. EDP 365 is not afraid to go there.
All right, so good evening and welcome. As y'all can see, I'm trying to play with my jacket, make sure I look halfway decent. All right, so welcome to EDP 365 Facebook Live. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Les.
And I'm Chris Styles. I'm with Everyday People 365 on Facebook Live.
All right, y'all, so y'all know how we do it every Tuesday. Now it's not this wine because my co-host here will try different things other than wine. So tonight, this is what I am drinking. This is Childress Vineyards Muscadine, and we have the sweet white wine. So I'm going to try this and see if I like it. I got this because it was something different. Over the last several months, we've done red wines. And so I'm going to taste this and see if I like it.
What do you think it'll take?
Well, because I just, like a clown, put this gum in my mouth before I tasted it. But from what I've tasted thus far, I think I would buy this again. Once the sweetness has gone out of my gum, I'll be able to give you a better review. But thus far, I like it. I will go back and get it. It's not an expensive wine. Again, this is what we're drinking tonight.
Childress American Sweet Muscadine.
And our guest, I'm not going to tell you who the guest is right now. You probably have read it. But our guest has had some of the wine as well. And we're going to get her opinion on the wine when she joins us on the couch. All right. So, what is Les watching? What am I watching? All right, y'all. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show and we dive in, all right, so what I am watching that I want to tell y'all about is Power. This is the last season of Power, and oh my gosh. Last Sunday, I don't know if they could do any better than they did last Sunday. Last Sunday was ridiculous. It was super crazy. This Sunday was good too, but not as good as last week. And I'm hoping that some of you will go and check it out if you've never seen Power before. I don't know if you can really binge watch it if you don't have Stars. I think it's on Stars. But yeah, go and watch Power if you have Stars. It is excellent. I think I'm gonna miss what's the name of the show? Power once it's not on the air anymore.
Just to say, ever since I started watching this show, I hated Tyreek.
Yeah, he's an ass.
And for no reason at all, for real.
Did you watch it Sunday?
No, matter of fact,
watch it.
I think first
watch it.
Or second series, except not the episode, but the series. I think the second set, I maybe got one or two in, so I have a lot of catching up.
Yeah, catch up. Last season, super good. Last week was ridiculous, but that line, and I just saw it on Facebook before we went on, where Lorenz Test Tate.
Lorenz Test. That's a new
and
actor.
believe it or not, y'all, it's not even the wine. I am tired, and I just got some stuff going on, so the wine is probably intensifying it. But Lorenz Tate looks at Ghost on the show and says, "Nigga, what?" So yeah, they had some really great lines, some really funny lines. So again, this is what I'm watching. I'll have a different show next week, but check out Power. And so, Christelle, what's going on with you? How was your day?
Actually, I had a great day, very productive. Just a little bit mentally tired this evening, but one of my coworkers came to me, this early this morning, and they're telling me that there was a verdict that happened in the Amber Geyer Bolton Jean case. and the former Dallas police officer who killed her neighbor after she walked into his apartment, allegedly thinking it was her own. She has been found guilty, and later on this week at some point, matter of fact, tomorrow, I don't know if it's next week or today, Tuesday, I'm not for sure later on, but they did say that her sentencing is going to take place. And because of her crime, she could get 5 to 99 years to life in prison. Parole is not an option, so she will never get out. And so that's what the Dallas Morning News reported this morning. My thing is seeing some of the things that was going on in the case and what she was alleging. I don't know if it was client to attorney privilege, or a lot of things were not disclosed, or the police department might not have disclosed all the circumstances and things and that. But in my opinion, I mean, something else was going on besides what they're talking about. Because in those type of apartment buildings that this young man lived in, when you go to hotels, there's a key that you have to get in. Each door has its own signature. So each key that you have that goes into that door only goes into that door. And I know people just don't leave their doors open like that. It's not that type of society where people do that. Maybe they do, but in this case, anytime your door closes, the door locks. So I knew that something was wrong. Either she got access from somebody with that pass, or somehow she was, and they didn't mention that. I don't know if there was some type of relationship between them, and she was mad. Maybe he dumped her. I don't know. This is just in my thought pattern. Something had to have happened in regards to that, because you don't have access to the home. I don't know if he knew her personally or anything like that, but just to go into somebody's home, and then, I mean, I guess the media news found out that he was actually in his home eating ice cream, watching TV. How was it dark and you couldn't see him if the TV was on and he's eating ice cream? I mean, if you think about all the storyline behind it, it just doesn't make sense. I don't know if he was murdered, or maybe he saw something he wasn't supposed to see, or he was going to come forward on something. We would have no idea at this point in time how and why this happened, but that's just what I had to say in regards to this. There's just a lot of missing pieces to this than what they're telling us. I don't hope or wish bad things on anybody, but I think this particular case should set a precedence on police officers being accountable for their behaviors moving forward from this point. Did you have anything to say about that, Liz?
The story sounded a little suspect.
Mm-hmm.
How do you confuse the third floor with the fourth floor?
Absolutely.
And then how did you get in to this young man's apartment? And so, just like you said, normally those little key fobs or cards only work for that particular area. And so, even if the young man had to come and open the door, or what was her reason to get in? So, you know, just like you said, a lot of things are questionable.
It's a lot of holes
but
in the storyline.
Excuse me. Was I guess great. I don't want to say guess, but what was great was that, you know, she was convicted, correct?
Yes, she was convicted.
She was found guilty. She was found guilty. Okay, so we got some comments going, and so hello to everybody who's watching. I can't push anything on my phone because the phone is on the other side of the room, and so thank you all for joining us tonight.
Hi, Mom. How you doing? Definitely appreciate it. Marie says there were some pictures deleted off her phone. I would like to know what those words or those pictures were about.
Wow, didn't know that.
And I want to say good evening, everyone. I wasn't able to respond. You know, this was talking about the story in regards to this. I I just think I was like, this is very strange for this to happen, for you to be 1378 and you're 1478, or he was 1478, she was 1378. Whether late shift, you work a double shift, I'm going to my crib.
You said 1378?
Yeah, it was something like that, the 1478 or 1378, but supposedly she lived right underneath him.
Oh, you're talking about the address?
Yeah, the address, which is coincidental. I don't care about that personally, but I just know that in that situation, the door was not open. If it was open, he was expecting somebody to come. If the door was open, he was expecting somebody to come, and you had to put something in the door to stop it from closing. Other than that, it's a done deal. It's a lock. Somebody would have to come open it, unless you had somebody's key pass to come into that door. So I don't know where she got that from. If it was from him, again, maybe he was seeing each other, or she got it from somebody in the apartment complex, the manager or somebody. I'm not for sure how you'd be able to duplicate those type of things, but that's really what I wanted to say about that. And I'm glad that she's being brought to justice and accountable for her actions, whatever those actions were for, why she did what she did. The truth we may not never know. So with that being said, I would like to introduce you to a proud and creative licensed professional mental health counselor who owns and operates a publication called The Healing Connector. And I would like to introduce you to the very beautiful, the wonderful, and sexy SONYA Allen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Hey.
Thank you for inviting me on.
Come close to me.
Yes.
So tell me, before we get into who you are and all the great things that you're doing and we have going on,
Yeah, you do this.
how'd you like the wine?
The wine. The wine is tasty. I agree with your observations and your comments.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the wine.
The wine was very, very good.
So again, hey to everybody. I can see some things.
You got three thumbs up.
Hey.
Some names popping up on the screen. Again, I can't really see them because the phone's over there. So I'll leave Chris in charge of who's popping in and to address any comments or questions that you have. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
All the time we've been doing the show, this is the first time
I know.
you've been on.
It's exciting.
Been in the background. And behind the scenes productions.
And I'm not crazy or drunk, y'all. Please forgive me. I'm like exhausted.
Yeah.
And the wine again is an enhancement of the. Of me being so tired. So welcome.
Thank you.
I know Chris is probably gonna start with all the questions, but
Okay.
kudos to everything you've been doing.
Thanks.
I remember when you were studying for the test, and
Man.
you were putting in a lot of hours, getting to the point that you wanted to get to, and so kudos to you,
Thank you.
for your accomplishments and everything that you're doing. So glad to have you on the show.
Thanks.
It was
And
Just
kudos to
share
you
some
guys for doing this. Les, this has been your baby, so it's wonderful that you guys have been on. How many years now?
Tree of them.
3 years. That's
3 years.
awesome. Yes.
Tree of them.
And then to be able to add other things to it, like all the other things we're doing
Yes.
collectively and individually, it has been great.
Phenomenal woman, as
We're sitting
Andrew
together,
said.
two phenomenal women sitting together, because it looks like you got some great stuff to show.
Yes,
But
yes.
phenomenal women sitting together tonight.
Yeah.
So SONYA, could you tell the viewers about what it is that you do as a professional?
Okay, so as you mentioned earlier, I was studying, so now I'm actually a licensed professional counselor. I have an outpatient practice in Logan, Virginia.
Good for you.
So,
Your own?
My own, yes.
What?
Yes. So the phone number is 804-956-7266.
So, one more time.
Hard work.
804-956-7266. So I specialize in anxiety, depression, and trauma. I love working with children and families, helping with those systems and issues that occur, those challenges. So feel free to give me a ring, just even if you just want to just chat a little bit to know what direction you should go in. So I would love that.
So, Mrs. Allen, so it was like, how did you come up with the idea to create the Healing Connector?
Okay, so the Healing Connector is my baby. This is a community booklet. It is meant to educate the community about mental health and to be a resource guide. What I noticed was that when I'm out in the community, in the grocery stores, the library, we have all these free newspapers, you know, for everything from real estate to natural eating to reading and even some medical care, but there was nothing about mental health. And the community that we serve are suffering because they don't know when or where or how to reach out. For instance, many folks wind up going to the emergency room or they wind up calling 911, and we know what happens when you call 911. The outcome is typically at risk of being a negative outcome because the police are not really trained to respond to people who have mental health. So I felt that there was a need and there's a big gap in providing this education to the community because some folks are suffering and don't even know they're suffering because it's like second, third, fourth generation issues, and they don't even know that it's an issue because they've been surrounded by it for years and years. And then when it explodes, they wind up calling the police. So this booklet is designed to educate the community about basic mental health, signs of depression, signs of suicide. My child is always angry. What do I do? Hey, your kid might be depressed. It doesn't mean he's just bad or disobedient. He could just be depressed because depression in children comes out as anger as well as just being extreme sadness. So those are things that the common person may not know. So this booklet is here to educate the community and help them find resources. So in the back, I have something I call yellow pages that have a band of yellow on it, and that's where you'll find your resources. You know, here you have support group. Here you have supportive organizations. I have a red band on this page because you may need to talk to someone right now. So this is who you would call if you were experiencing significant symptoms and felt a strong need to maybe harm yourself or harm someone else. These are numbers that you could call right now to speak to someone to help you get through that. So that's why it's called the Healing Connector, to connect you to resources that can help facilitate that healing process.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing, everyone?
So where would someone be able to get a copy? How does someone get a copy?
Okay, again, this is a community booklet, and it's designed to be a free paper in the community. Just like you go to the library, the grocery store, and you see that stack of newspapers or booklets, well, this is designed to join that stack so that everyone will have access to it. There are other resource magazines and booklets that have been created by different organizations, but guess what? You have to go to that organization to get that booklet. You have to go to social services, you have to go to the NAMI or the National Alliance for Mental Illness. You have to go to these places to even get the booklet or their information, whereas this is designed to be free and in the community. So this is my maiden voyage. This is the first issue. This is September, October. I chose September, October because September is Suicide Awareness Month. So wanted to use that platform to help bring awareness to mental health. Next issue will be November, December. So in those issues, I'll be talking about issues related to foster care and adoption and the lifelong impact that being in foster care has on the youth and the adults, since November is Adoption Month. And of course, the holidays are coming and people are suffering with mental health during the holiday season. So we'll talk about that as well in those issues. So right now it's going to be created bi-monthly, so every 2 months there'll be a new issue.
So what is advert?
Okay, so right now I have this is a free booklet, but guess what? It needs to be funded. So it's going to be funded by advertisement. So in my maiden issue, I have blank pages designed to let folks know who have mental health organizations. If you're involved with the mental health field in any way, whether it be support groups, counseling services, support services, contact me about putting an ad for your company in this booklet. This book is going to give you that maximum exposure because there's no other one like it, okay? You call that same number, 986-7266. Is that the right number?
It's
956.
804-956.
956. I've been saying numbers all day. So the Healing Connector, contact me, Sonia Allen, at 956-7266 about, hey, if you have feedback you want to offer, I welcome that because, again, as I said, this is my maiden voyage. I feel very passionate about this because I've been in the field for over 15 years and I have met so many families who didn't know what to do, who to call, where to go, and until it's too late, whether you're a parent of a child that's struggling or you yourself are struggling, sometimes you just don't know how to reach out. And I felt like, wow, they should know what to do, where to go. You shouldn't have to call the police or the fire department or wind up in the emergency room where you're going to be medicated to the hilt, where if you knew what to do, you might just reach out early on and be able to get that mental health support that you need. And you're not alone. That's the other aspect of the Healing Connector, is to show you that you're not alone. I have a section in here called My Story. Each month someone's going to share with you their story, how they too had to navigate the systems to become well mental health wise. So again, you're not alone, and call me.
So that number is 804-956-7266. And some of the things that she had brought up and talked about this evening, again, is very, very important for you to be accountable for your own mental and your emotional health. Because too many times, what happens is, again, when you reach a point where you just had enough, a lot of people commit suicide when they could have gotten some help. Suicide, they hurt other people, whether that's abuse through a fight, or just outright just lose their mind or attack people and things of that nature. This is when people come to a head. So being able to have something that's out there that's going to be in places that we can actually go to and reach 24 hours a day, those resources will be available as well. So that was very important. The other thing that comes out of this too is that when you have, when you call 911, and you've seen many reports across the United States where, although the police officer may not know or whether they've already been informed that this person has a mental health issue, when they encounter them, they don't know how to de-escalate, they don't know how to handle the situation. Usually the person is either locked up, they're put in a mental institution, or they get killed. And those are the things that we're trying to avoid. And this is why this is a good resource to have. This is why it's a good resource to advertise in, to help to avoid these situations. And if you call the hospital, somebody takes you to a hospital, that's going to cost you money that you don't have when somebody could actually, you may be able to reach or go to a facility that's more in touch with what you're going through, they're more caring, as opposed to going to the hospital again where they're going to hit you with meds or um, possibly send you away or do something that is not going to cause you to get well long term. It's temporary. Big pharma, the pills and things that it give you, these are temporary fixes to things that you would need to actually work on individually yourself.
Absolutely.
Eleanor says, not to the point of hurting myself. She says, because I love me, and she said, but it's just sad that you come across, you see things like this happen in our society. I don't think I'm any bigger or better than anybody else who's having any type of issues, because we all have things going on every day. We just don't sometimes know or understand when we reach that point where we're going to explode, or we're going to do something that's very irrational, something that we probably never even have done before had the situation taking place. So,
or just being sad, being so sad and depressed for years. There's so many people walking around just struggling with childhood trauma, the childhood trauma and the shame that goes along with it. And it's unfortunate because it continues to impact that person as an adult. And this may have happened to them when they were 3, 4, 5 years old, and they don't even know why they're still struggling with it. It's almost like they don't even give themselves permission to hurt. And you have permission to hurt, and there are resources out there to help you, but you don't know that because this mental health business operates in silos. There's no communication. So that's the gap I'm trying to fill.
Tell people what you mean by silos.
So, silos meaning that, you know how they use the word silo, you know how in the farms, grain farms back in the day, they had these big round circular buildings. Well, those are the silos. And then in the mental health field, you might have one company doing this service over here and another company doing a service over here, but they're not even communicating. So if this company can't meet your needs, they may not even know how to send you to another company that can do a better job, or they may not know that there's support groups right down the street that can help a person. We need to communicate and be more connected so that it's more of a team and holistic approach for the community.
Okay, so I have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times, and Chris, I think you know this too from working in social services, a lot of times people don't know about the resources and things that are available to them. What would you say is the best route for people to find out about those things, whether it's something they need or whether it's something they need to refer to a friend? How do people find out about all these different resources that are in the community, especially those free ones? How do they find out about those available things?
Right, that's the thing. There isn't a one-stop shop, and I'm hoping to create that with this booklet, because not only would it be at the grocery store or the library, I like to place it at social services on that resource table that they have, because you're right, there isn't, they would have to research and go online and research the different institutions or businesses or organizations that offer these free resources. There isn't like one place that they can find all that information, and not everyone's computer savvy. So
right,
those
exactly.
folks get left out, so that's what was my thought behind, wow, we need to reach everyone, not just those who have access to computers or those that walk this path. So for that person that you're asking that question about, they would have to research it themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, they would have to go on a computer and know the name of the different organizations and look on their website to see what they may have.
So what's the most challenging thing for you being in this position, in this profession?
Again, the most challenging part is just being in this profession, the helping profession, helping folks to kind of have permission to be okay with the fact that yes, you're depressed, you have something to be sad about, you have something to be angry about, helping people come to that realization and getting them to really understand that although these things happen to you and those things are not your fault, it is your responsibility to do the work that you need to do to heal. So getting someone to that place probably can be challenging, and then reaching them, getting that commitment. Poverty is a big issue, because unfortunately people experience poverty. Poverty is traumatizing, especially when it's generational, and that adds to the limited access that a person will have to get support, because they're not even allowed to even feel hurt, really. Many times certain family systems is so ingrained to struggle that you really don't even have permission to say, hey, I'm hurting, so just wanting to reach that population and help them to get connected.
Now we do have one of the listeners, Kim Nichols says, hello Sonia. If I want to come in for an individual session, what should I do to see you? And they asked about what age groups do you see in your practice?
Well, thank you, Kim Nichols, for reaching out. That's a wonderful question. So I see age groups from school age, elementary school. I prefer elementary school because I feel that child has the cognitive development to kind of participate in the sessions and to really implement the skills that I'll be teaching. So about age 6 on up, I work with children, work with adults, all ages. I work with couples as well and families. I have the foster care and adoption community. I really have a love for that community. So, having worked as a post-adoption social worker for many years, I feel this real strong connection to that community. So I understand not only just the childhood trauma of the children that are being parented but also even the secondary and tertiary trauma that the parent experiences from parenting a child that's been traumatized.
So do you
Thank you, Kim. My phone number 804-956-7266. That's how you would reach me.
And I know some of the things you're doing are new. You're exploring some new avenues. You're exploring a different journey now. Will you get to the point where you go into any of the prisons in Richmond to try to help those there who may be dealing with mental health issues?
That opportunity could come. I would definitely embrace it. And hopefully this guide can reach the prisons as well, and because many people they're discharged or released from prison without knowing what to do or where to go, without any supports. So whether I would come in I'd be happy to come in and do a talk with that particular population or the administration that is responsible for linking those folks to resources, and present this guide to them, and even create a guide that is probably targeted towards that population as well.
That's excellent. So, if there are any administrators in in that arena out there, definitely give her a call, 804-956-7266. I had a couple people said out here I need a copy.
Woo, woo.
So that's Thank good. You. So one of the things too, wanted to ask is that not exactly the information that you do, but putting together the booklet and those type of things. How difficult was that? The research, the time going into bringing this to fruition.
It was. I won't say it was tedious. Not so much difficult, but it was tedious. It definitely took a team approach. I did not do this alone. I had what we call the Healing Connector team, and those members include I have a creative content manager who helped with the writing of the material named Linus Boyd Hughes, so a shout out to her. Raymond Miller. He created the graphics and the layout for the booklet. I had help with editing from Mr. Christopher Allen, so he helped to make sure that there weren't not too many typos.
Right.
I had help from Renee Cardwell with helping with doing the research for how to even plan for the funding and the advertisement piece. I had help from Teresa Marshall for overall marketing. I have help from Tamika Gamble, who's going to be in charge of the social media piece for me. And also, last but not least, I have to give credit to Mark Do Right for the logo. So it was definitely a team approach, and I appreciate everyone's input because I really needed the help. No matter how small or big their contribution was, it really made such a difference. It was tedious. This is a big project. Hopefully, I think and it's going to continue to grow because the goal is for right now. This is the Richmond, Virginia edition. I'm expecting for this to soon become the Central Virginia edition. Right now for Richmond, it includes just the Tri-City counties, which is Henrico, Chesterfield, Richmond City, Hanover, and Petersburg. So you'll have resources in there for those counties. But going forward, I plan to expand to Central Virginia, which gets a little bit larger, of course, including like Kent, New Kent County, and Hopewell, and just a little bit further out.
Sussex.
And then, yes, right, thank you. And then after that, the goal is for maybe there'll be a Tidewater edition. There'll be a Northern Virginia edition. There'll be a Roanoke edition. The goal is to reach out to all the areas of Virginia because, believe it or not, this is pretty common. People are in need of services and don't know where to start and don't even know if they, that they need the service. They've just been struggling for so long. So I'm looking forward to just expanding to throughout the whole state of Virginia, and who knows, maybe to the neighboring states as well. So. Mm-hmm.
So Sonya, and I was going to read this, but I really think it should be you because this is your baby. I'm going over the table of contents. Can you go over the table of contents with our viewers? And if you want to elaborate when you get to certain points, that would be great. But if you could share what's actually in your publication.
Okay, so on the table of contents, we talk about what's featured in this issue. So what's featured in this issue is going to talk about, just give a summary about what to expect from the particular issue. In this particular issue, it's going to be an article about suicide awareness. It's going to be an article about about parenting children who have symptoms of depression. The next item will be a message from the owner, which is myself. See, so I send a personal message out to the readers, letting them know how much I appreciate them picking this up, and also explaining why this is an important item for the community. So I go on to talk about how to use the guide, because this is a guide. Ultimately, this is a guide and an education tool. So I discuss how to use the guide so that you can have the maximum benefit from it. Let's see, what's the page? All right, and then the next item is I have a listing of the Healing Connector team, and then how to even find a therapist. Many people know that a therapist may be important or beneficial, but so how do I even find this person? So I have an article in here written by Dennis Boyd Hughes that gives you tips on how to choose a therapist that is right for you.
So before you go on to that, when you're talking about finding a therapist, if this is something new to someone and they're watching right now saying, I really need this, I'm glad I watched tonight. What key points, what are the key characteristics or things that they should look for when they're looking for a therapist, when they're choosing a therapist? How can they narrow it down so it's not such a broad search? Because a lot of times when you're looking for a doctor, you're just going to put in whatever the field may be, and so many doctors come up. And I'm just using, the doctor as an example. How do you narrow down the choices, and how do you go about choosing the right therapist?
Basically, the right therapist is a personal choice. Okay, so, and knowing what your concerns are. Like for instance, I'm listed on Psychology Today, so I do, there are so many therapists on Psychology Today, but I think the first thing that you would look for is, does that therapist have a specialty in the area that you're thinking that you like to address? If you have anxiety, you'd want a therapist that says that they specialize in anxiety. If you are searching for your child, you want a therapist that works with children. So you first look for a therapist that has a specialty for the area that you want to address. And then from there, have a conversation with that therapist on the phone before you just schedule an appointment. I mean, that's what I do. People call me from Psychology Today. I speak to them briefly over the phone. I want to know what's going on, what's the issue, because I want to make sure that I am the right person that can address that issue.
But how do you get past that receptionist? And that's the thing. A lot of times, if you want to call the office, you're going to get that receptionist. And even if the receptionist says, okay, well, I can get you to the nurse, but I can't get you to the therapist.
Right. You should, I would ask to speak to therapists.
Okay.
I would ask that therapist give you a call back and discuss their specialty with you to make sure that it is a good fit. If that therapist is not willing or too busy to call, then that probably is not a good fit from the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Those are like the beginning. And of course, you still would have to, a phone conversation can really go a long way.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. So back to the table of contents. My child is angry all the time. It's an article that I wrote to kind of educate families about children's behavior. Sometimes behaviors are outside just the normal hormonal changes. Sometimes children are just behaving their age. Don't forget their brain is still forming, so they are going to be impulsive. They are going to make really, dumb decisions, and that's normal. They can be forgetful. Those are normal things. But if you have a child that's having behaviors that are a little bit outside the norm, like if they respond, they overreact, or they hold on to feelings for way too long, that child might be experiencing something more significant. So there's articles that help educate families about when it is appropriate to seek help professionally for your child. The next item is signs of depression.
I got a question about that. The signs of, so many times you hear about people who commit suicide because they're so depressed. If you're a person that's struggling and going through some things, for example, I've said it a couple of times over the last month or two, there have been points, not every day, but there are some points where I just broke down and cried because I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not where I need to be, or what am I doing and where's my life going? How do you know, or what's a sign, I guess I'm wording that correctly, to let you know, hey, I'm just dealing with something right now, or I actually have depression. I don't feel like I have depression. How do you separate that? If I'm feeling right now like, oh, I'm just going through something, I'll get over my crime and get it out and I'm going to move on. Mm-hmm. How do I know I'm not dealing with depression?
Well, depression is going to last for at least 2 weeks. And it's like this, and it's this thing you can't shake.
It's like this cloud that won't move.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that immovable force. And, you could drag you down physically, mentally, all your thoughts, different things. I've been experiencing depression for a minute. I was able to kind of remove that cloud. It dissipated. So, but I would definitely describe it as a dark cloud that continues to rain and storm and thunder and wind and beat you down every day, and it feels like you can't escape. And a lot of people are seeking that. This is probably something y'all may or may not know. If you have gotten my book as well, I tried to commit suicide one time. I didn't feel I had an out. It was just that deep. It felt like if somebody tossed a rock in the ocean and it kept going down and down and down and down and down, and down to the bottom, where it got to a point where I was so quiet. It's got to a point of peace where I just wanted to not breathe anymore. And I just wanted to succumb to the peace that I found with that solitude forever.
So what I'm dealing with, and I don't think, again, that I'm depressed, but so what I'm dealing with is not necessarily depression. I'm just at this point where I'm dealing with some issues, and you know, it's bringing me to a point where I want to cry and I want to break down, and the next day I feel like, okay, you've cried, get up, get yourself together, and move on. So I'm not depressed, I'm just dealing with a situation. But somebody else is going to be more of something that's ongoing, something that you're dealing with on a regular basis, something that you can't control.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that is a form
It's a big
or a layer of depression. Might not be deeper than another individual's, but you was in there. Definitely.
So I guess the key is that you were able to tell yourself the self-talk that you were able to give yourself is that's perseverance. You know, you had the ability to do that. People who are depressed often are not able to do that.
Okay.
Or it's up and down, up and down, up and down, and it begins to impact the way that you are able to even live your day-to-day life.
So I may not, an individual person, I'll just say me, we'll use me. I may not want to get out of bed and go to work. I may not want to be around friends. I may not want to talk to anybody. And I don't know, that's such, it seems like it's such a thin line, because those few days where I had that moment of, damn, I got 8 billion things, and this is who I am as a person. If little things happen at a time, I deal with it. Something happened Monday, something happened Friday, 2 weeks later, something happened 3 months later. Okay, I got that. But then when all those things come together at one time, it's just like you and Chris just both jumped on my back at one time. And it's like, damn, I broke down. And so, yeah, so it's just like, all right, damn, I broke down. I feeling like, And so, you know, like I said, most times I'm able to deal with it. Like, okay, I'm going to pray through. I'm going to pray through it. I may have to talk it out. But now, I don't know, it kind of raised a concern when, I think it was you, Chris, that said you may not want to talk to anybody. Because sometimes when I get to that place where I feel like, okay, I'm going to cry it out. I'm going to cry, get these feelings out and move on. But in that moment, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to call Chris and say, hey, Chris, let's go meet up at Uptown Alley and have some wings, and I need to tell you about what's going on. So like I said, you know, I just want people to really understand the difference between being in a moment where you're feeling sad and being in that lifetime of an emotional state, you know, and then if you don't really know that's where you are, how do you get help for it, because you don't always know.
Exactly. So you felt depressed. Now you can feel depressed. Doesn't mean you have a diagnosis of depression. Right. So what you described is not a diagnosis of depression. You felt depressed. You felt sad. You felt like the world was just too much. You know, right now.
Right.
I just need a moment. You know. Whereas people with depression, it just goes on. It just goes on.
Okay. And this is the last thing, and I'll give it to Chris. So I know someone who's near and dear to me, who's very close to me, and I try to be empathetic, but every time they call me, they are sad. I'm going through this. This happened today. I don't know what I'm gonna do tomorrow. And I'm not trying to be funny, but these are the conversations.
Yes.
And you know, I'm not gonna even lie. I had to tell my mother. I said, Mom, if he called me one more time, I'm gonna go off. I don't know what to tell him. And when you're not going through those things, it's hard, and you don't really know, like being in your position or your position, you don't know what to do with that person. And so he and I actually had a face-to-face conversation. And as we're having a conversation, and he's telling me some things that's going on, and he's really diving into things, and I'm seeing how his mind works and how his mind operates, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is the depression. Maybe he's going through that depression. And as we talk more and more, I could understand why he goes through the things that he goes through. I could understand why every time he calls me, it sounds like, you know, somebody's in the background playing the violin. And so when I have these conversations, I try to be as motivating and encouraging him as much as I can. But if you don't know what to do, how do you help somebody who's in that state?
Exactly. Right, exactly. That's the issue. No one knows what to do. So with this booklet, Signs of Depression, it tells you that you should, like that person should reach out to a therapist. If they're working and they have insurance, they should use their insurance and do a search in that particular MCO for what therapists are in their
field. What MCO is.
MCO, the managed care organization for their insurance, would be Aetna, Anthem, etc. So if they have insurance, they would search through their insurance provider what therapists they could access. If they don't have insurance, they could go to their county. They have something called same-day access, and I give all the phone numbers for same-day access for each county, where as a citizen of Virginia, you are entitled to walk into the CSB, the Community Services Board, and you are entitled to get an assessment and an appointment and be assigned a therapist or whatever the appropriate treatment you are in need of same day. No more waiting for months or weeks to be connected to a therapist, because they recognize how important being connected to therapeutic help is in the long run. So
did this happen because I think it was a senator or some political figure where the son killed his
crazy.
Okay.
And I remember prior to social services, I've had friends who committed suicide. I had people who were in bad relationships that were killed by somebody who was having mental disorders and things of that nature. And I felt bad because they were trying to be there to help, love, and assist them. And providing that love for them didn't help them. They ended up killing them. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make an interesting point that people may not think about. But we talk about mental health, and would you agree that there's a stigma to seeking help? Okay? So I'm going to use an example. So Chris, and even yourself, and even I in the past, when we think about suicide, or we talk about suicide, we often put the word commit in front of the word suicide. Commit implies something wrong, like a crime, So what we're trying to take the stigma off of suicide and depression, we want to talk about how people die by suicide versus committing suicide. To take away that stigma. So, but anyway, it's been a pleasure.
You're leaving? Where you leaving? Did I have too many questions?
I'm looking at Okay.
So before
I'm looking at the clock.
I didn't realize it was 8:03.
So before we go this evening, I just wanted to read some of the comments. Gwen, I definitely understand. I put the number in the comment and the thing in the screen if you would like to contact Sonya, or possibly get a hold of one of these the publication. She says, "I feel you." She said, She says she understands it the way I described when I was going through depression, how I felt. She says that she has those days. Gigi also expressed, she said, "Depression is my worst enemy. It stops me from accomplishing a lot because I shut down, get stubborn, and just want to give up." That's definitely a sign of depression.
And depression doesn't look the same for everyone.
Right.
Some people are angry. Some people are very sad. Some people isolate. And some people, are overly, exaggerate situations. It looks different in everyone.
Eleanor says we tend to hold everything in, then it all hits you at once.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you know, at some point during the day, I think one of the things that I need to start doing is being able to go take a walk, go exercise, go do something that's more conducive for your body, get your body in a better place, better energy, you know, also in a better thinking pattern. I also would suggest we all have to eat better, because the stuff that they're putting in the foods are compounding our emotions, the way we think, and how we respond and how we react to situations. So Eleanor, just have a question for you. She says, how do we distinguish between, I think you already answered that.
Okay.
Because you brought out her question.
Okay.
Her question was, how do we distinguish between depression and self-hosted pity parties?
Okay. Yeah.
And you know,
Thank you,
Les
Eleanor.
did kind of explain that. And some people who are looking for attention have self-hosted pity parties, but depression is a whole bigger and deeper entity. That's probably from what I've experienced.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So with that being said,
I mean, do you leave it out?
No.
Okay, just a few more questions.
Mm-hmm.
We've never had someone who actually deals with mental health issues or mental health as a whole on the show, and so I just want to make sure that since we have you in the room, that people can ask questions if they have any questions, if they want more. I'm just flipping through it, you all, and this is great, and I'm surprised that this is free. If this was me, I'd be charging y'all. But it has a lot of information, and I know y'all are like, Les, sometimes you're so extra. But that's why I asked her to go through the content so you can actually find out what it is that's in this great publication that SONYA has created. And so again, when you're talking about signs of depression, and I guess that's where we stop, but I wanted to focus on that. I wanted SONYA to address those things because, you know, you have so many stories of depression, and every time somebody talks about depression, I think about Robin Williams. Mm-hmm. You know, he was one of the funniest comedians in the world, and when I woke up that morning and found out that he had killed him, you know, that he said died by suicide, I don't know, I wasn't at home boo-hoo crying, but it did sadden me a little bit, because you never really know what's going on with someone and how they're dealing with issues. And, you know, you would see him on TV all the time, very famous, lots going on. You know, you see him, he's laughing, he's joking, he's having a good time, but you never really know what somebody is going through, you know, and that's one of the things that SONYA has covered in her publication.
Right, it shows again how you were touched by suicide, because although you didn't know him personally, it still had an impact on you.
Right. Right, exactly. And who knew about same-day service? Who knew that you had to be seen on that day? And I'm glad that you touched on not having insurance, because there's so many people in America who don't have the insurance. And so because your first thought is not always, I got to get some help. Your first thought a lot of times is, well, damn, I don't have the money to go to the doctor. I'm going to pay my lights. I'm going to pay the gas bill. I'm going to pay my rent. I'm going to pay my mortgage. And so you kind of neglect yourself in that aspect. And so I'm glad she had information in here about same-day services. Support groups are important as well. So y'all, this is dynamic. It is well put together. I've seen publications and books put together that you have to pay for, and they look kind of crappy. But this looks great. This looks great. Great quality work. Lots of information. And because it's free, you know, I want to make sure that you all get in touch with SONYA. If you could, you got a website?
Yes, I do.
If you can put the website, and you can go to her website, you can reach out to her and to get more information. And, you know, if by chance you missed anything, of course you always know, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Chris, that you can even reach out to Chris and say, hey, I need SONYA's information. This is not something that we touch on a whole lot as a community. as a people. As they say, this we don't always focus on mental health and mental health issues, but I think that, you know, it's important because I've had several people in my family who deal with, you know, the mental issues and the mental struggles. And again, you know, if you're not going through those things, you don't know how to help them. And sometimes you get frustrated and listening to the things that they say, and sometimes you feel like, oh, they're exaggerating, but I mean, they're not. And so we want to make sure that you have the services and the resources that you need, which is, this is an amazing resource. And I really didn't think I was going to have as many questions as I had, because I planned on just, you know, closing, looking at the wall, pretending like, you know, I was into it and I was asleep, because I know in the beginning of the show, y'all saw me do this. Again, that's because I'm tired. But this is just so great, you know, to be able to have access to someone who can provide us with all this information. And it's so great that we can open this platform so that Sonya can reach out to more people, and she can have more people reaching out to her. It looks like you got some comments.
And it's somebody that's in our community. It's someone who looks like us.
Yeah.
Not somebody, you know, who doesn't really understand us or what we go through on a daily basis, who has experienced some of the things that we experienced and on a daily basis. And sometimes being under that kind of scrutiny and that type of stuff that we go through on a daily basis, you're going to be depressed. And sometimes you just need a place or a platform to come to a focus to where the problem is stemming from, and then you can move and work from there. And safe, comfortable, not be judged, but somebody who's going to listen and assess and be able to provide you with the correct information to help you move forward and grow personally as an individual. Because in that way, you're going to be able to be much more helpful and make better decisions in your life. And you know, I've been saying it for the last few weeks. Are you living constructively or are you living destructively? And a lot of times, because we're afraid to let someone know that we're not being accountable for what's going on in our minds and what's going on in our hearts and emotionally, we tend to make a lot of mistakes in that process. And it usually takes a bad situation for somebody to come out to be able to see that, you know, you need to get some help. But when you're going in a downward spiral direction, just reach out, talk to somebody, call, be accountable for yourself, get that help.
Any more comments? And I have one last question.
Several people just said this is a great topic. They said thanks, Sonya, for your information and sharing.
Thank you.
Eleanor, I definitely appreciate this for many years as an individual. She said, behind the mask is a mountain of hidden emotions.
Absolutely.
And I was definitely that individual, that person. So, and then masking as well, behind those emotions, dealing with that, I primarily masked with alcohol. And alcohol became like my major focal point, because I didn't want to deal with anything else that was going on in here. It was try to drown it out, but you can't. It's just like pushing a ball down on water. It keeps popping back up until you take it out the water.
Yeah, that's right,
So that was my solution, get answers and things of that nature. So,
All right. Any more comments?
That's it.
Okay, so I have a question, and then once you answer, we can share our final thoughts and move on. And so, how would you tell that person who dealt what I dealt with a couple of weeks ago? Okay, you know, everything is happening at one time. You know, it's all coming down. I'm gonna cry tonight. I'm gonna get it all out. I'm not gonna talk to anybody. I'm gonna deal with what I deal with. Tomorrow, I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna shake that shit off, and then I'm gonna move forward. How do you tell that person, or how do you help that person to get to the point where Chris was at, and even getting to that point where Robin Williams was?
Okay, so are you asking, how do I help the person who starts out with just, I guess, the normal day-to-day angst, you know, or disappointments, and then try to prevent them from escalating to a level of where they want to kill themselves. Is that what you're asking?
Kill themselves or get to whatever point Chris was, where he said his crutch was alcohol.
Right. Okay.
What things would you say?
So there's a couple of things. So first of all, when I meet a client that is experiencing depression or signs of depression, you know, of course they tell you their story, but you know, I look for the pattern. I look for the pattern in their life. Like, is this something that they're only experiencing now, or has this been a pattern throughout their whole life? You know, and then I can take it there. If it's just something they're experiencing now, then we can work on some strategies, some ways to cope with it, and some ways to you know, to move through it, and then, you know, find a solution to kind of, you know, overcome whatever the, you know, the intense emotions are that they're experiencing. It could be a situation. The situation could be relationship issues that could be contributing to why they're feeling the way that they're feeling. You know, for instance, a young woman who has a strained relationship with one of their parents. You know, that's something I might teach her some strategies and how to communicate with her parents so that she's heard. You know, and that could be just a situational situation. Double words. Or they could have childhood trauma. Okay, if they have childhood trauma, then my goal is to find out if that child that was harmed is still, like, let's say they were harmed at the age of 7. So now I want to find out, is the 7-year-old still kind of like in charge of their adult life right now? All right, and that takes time. You know, that's going to take some time. So depending on what the root issue is to what the presenting depression is or the symptoms are, that kind of guides, you know, different options in terms of how to prevent it from escalating to a point of major depression. The fact that they're talking about it is already a step in the right direction. Okay.
So I'm going to share my final thoughts first. I'm going to let Chris share his second. I really want SONYA to close out with final thoughts.
Thanks.
Just because she's the professional here. My final thought for tonight is we have an expert here. You know, Chris and I try to provide you all, not just with the funny stuff, not just with topics about sex, but life-changing things, serious things, things that make a big difference in how we move forward. And so my final thought is get in touch with SONYA, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns. You don't have to ask your question here on the EDP 365 platform. You can reach out to her, you can call her with some things that you've been concerned with, some things you may have been afraid to talk to someone else about. Find out how you can get this great guide to help you to deal with things that you're dealing with. But again, we've got somebody here who's an expert, not somebody who's just, oh girl, yeah, my cousin was depressed and I can sit here and talk to you. But somebody who's licensed, a licensed professional, you all. So please reach out to her if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have a family member that needs help. Again, if you need help and you just want to be able to talk to someone one-on-one and have those private conversations, please reach out to SONYA Allen. And Chris is going to share more of her information as we're going throughout. Chris will share his final thoughts now, and then we'll let SONYA share her final thoughts as well.
My final thoughts for this evening are, I just want everybody to remember, you can't run from yourself. You can't hide from yourself. If you mask yourself, you're only compounding the problem. And again, I always just say, be proactive, be accountable for your mental and your emotional health. If you are proactive and you're being accountable, this 9 times out of 10 is going to stop you from progressing down a road or getting into a place that you wish that you hadn't done something, or you know, things of that nature. So again, be accountable, responsible for your mental health. Don't worry about what somebody else is going to think about you. You can't worry about that anymore. You have to do what's best for you. So without the judgment and all those type of things you think people are going to bring to you. Okay, look, do it for yourself. The third thing, something that Sonya mentioned that I always also say is you have the right to feel the way that you feel, okay? But you don't have the right to hurt others because of the way that you feel. As human beings, I know it's natural to take out your frustrations or transfer that energy into somebody else. But now you're causing trauma, you're causing damage, you're causing something to somebody else because of your issues. You need to be responsible for your issues. Sonya, what did you have for your final thought?
My final thoughts, first of all, again, I want to say thank you, Les.
Thank you.
And thank you, Chris, for having me on this platform. I truly have enjoyed it. Thank you all for your comments and tuning in. I really appreciate it. The Healing Connector, if you see the logo, you see that there is an image of people reaching out to one another. We are not alone. Okay, you are not alone. This is the guide to finding solutions, okay? And that's what I want to leave you with. Thank you.
All right. So next week, we're getting ready to wrap it up. I'm so sleepy. I got to go home and go to bed. All right. So next week is the EP365 Case Candy Toy Party. So next week, y'all have your money ready because you will be able to purchase items from Kay's Candy. Kay is going to do a private party for the EP365. Well, I was about to say family because she's part of the family, but for the viewers. And so come next week with your money and leave your judgment at the door. Because there's going to be a lot of different things she's going to show us, so get ready for that. This Saturday, and thank you to everyone who has already registered. We're super excited about this. This Saturday, we are hosting our EBO interest meeting, which is going to be on 10-5 at Tucker Hole Library out in Henrico County in the West End. I believe that's Starling Drive, but it's out in the West End, not too far from Regency Mall. So we're going to be sharing some great things for all of you entrepreneurs, brand builders, business owners who are interested in enhancing who you are and what you do as a brand builder, entrepreneur, business owner. Again, thank you. Okay. So we're going to have some people out. It is free, you all. This is a free event. We just want to share what we're doing with you all. We would love for you all to be a part of this because EBO has already started to be something big, and we're looking forward to get bigger. And again, as a entrepreneur, you don't want to miss this event. Again, it's free. It's not all day long. 1 to 3. We just want 2 hours of your time. We're going to share some information with you all. Again, it's going to cost you nothing except your time. No money out of your pocket. It costs nothing to listen. Don't forget about potion number 2. Spray and go so no one knows. Everyone poops. No one likes to smell it. I'm still selling potion number 2. 4 fragrances: Alpha Mist, Citrus Blend, Island Breeze, and Orange Slice. And so you spray that on the water before you poop. It eliminates the poop smell.
Alpha Mist, baby, for the men.
A lot of people, you know what, I find now that even a lot of women love the Alpha Mist.
Wow.
But it's $3 per bottle. It's a 15 milliliter bottle. Right now, I don't have the bigger bottles. So right now, we're just doing the small bottles. But if you're interested in getting that, give me a call or reach out to me. Don't forget, join EDP365 Facebook group. Don't forget to join Me Connect Promote if you're an entrepreneur, brand builder, or business owner. This is where you can post all of your information, all about your business, all about somebody else's business. Authors Then in Co-op, join that group, join that group if you're an author so that you can post your information, post events and ideas for other authors. Richmond, Virginia events and vendors. I created that group so you can post events coming up, but you can also post events where vendors are needed. So that's going to be something you can join as well. And Gino, my latest group is Girls Night Out. Ladies, we are always looking for new things to do. And so you can post your information there. You can go and scroll through and kind of see some other ideas that ladies have as far as having a girls' night out. Because sometimes going to dinner every month with your friends can be boring. Sometimes you want to step out and do new things. All right, so this is my last thing. Don't forget to celebrate your victories, whether they're large or small. And you all, when things aren't going your way, when things seem a little slow, understand the process, understand that God has to prepare you for the next level. So gain and do all you can where he has you, because it's all about preparation. He can't get you to the next level if you are not ready. And sometimes you think you're ready, but God still needs you to work on some things before he can fully open that next door. And don't give up.
So if you fall, get on up.
Yep, and I just want to say one last thing. Hi, Mom. Hi, Lizette. Lizette, I need to give a shout out to Lizette Robles for also being a major supporter of the project. Thank you. Mwah. Good night, everyone.
And so we're going to come to my little point where I'll make my small quotes at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. And they're very meaningful, because definitely a lot of people do use them and they keep it in mind. So definitely appreciate y'all for that. I'm just going to say, live in the moment and not the past. Practice to keep your heart and mind in the sky, and you'll feel alive most of the time. Keep your head to the sky.
What is that note? Good night. Thank y'all for joining us. Thank you so much for being here. This has been amazing. We got to have you back so people can ask more questions. Don't forget, reach out to SONYA.